Hello, Canada and America, and President Trump's. This is regarding President Trump's difference. For example, everyone is changing with all, and President Obama's difference. And we'll go further. We'll get to Biden's difference. You guys can't speak for one individual's difference properly. Therefore, name at A through Z. Before America's founders were born, the design of the suburbs was influenced by its roles, northern colonies and southern colonies, that with slavery entrenched, with witch trials entrenched, even if they were made up. Right through our schools, the suits and ties counters exceptions. You guys can't afford the quality of fact tribute nature necessary to discern properly the differences between wars and revolutions. And how all revolutions, that's the reason, first of all, James Madison's plan is what forced the North and South to fight against slavery while they were both still roles with it entrenched. Sickly distinctly, how sickly non distinctly too. Whether it is increased, not just left out. We have the scientific value of a human fact tribute nature breaching method that this is about. We have it replaced right from the communications of our founders. And this is where people want to pretend, oh, it's our names. We never had possession of our names as the human species body of individual body. And all group differences now through systems and as systems tactical ulterior from that one that is not just our species body. So we could discern there is something that is not us, it is not those species bodies, but it is all things anyway. And so many pray. But we're not all agreeing about what to call it. So that because nature shows us its function about how it is hyper invisible distinctly from how it is invisible but still discernible. And the ancients revealed that they needed also, per science, to also have a name scientific for that scientific value, so we could observe it. This is where also it is a hyperconjunction to all parts of speech, of grammars, not just of English. All the parts of speech are about the invisible but still discernible. How and why there are two present part. There's a present participle and a past participle. How and why there are hyper-additional names for verbs. For a verb, they are the identity of a verb, but being used as a present participle or as a past participle. And this is right where we can discern. Also, what we are appreciating, where and how we appreciate all the parts of speech, therefore a verb, and the names of the verb. Like predicate, present participle, past participle, share, and infinitive too, which is a phrase with the preposition, the word to, before the verb, which makes it no longer a main verb, a predicate. See, this is about the identity of hyperconjunction to all things. Vaccines. Science is sharing an identity. Shout out to Wayne Gretzky. Please have forgiveness for the people and have people have forgiveness for Wayne Gretzky. Because you guys have it all. You guys are fighting to have your name and continually increasingly used in ways that can't defend that and afford to have short words proper by our country's foundings at modern countries A through Z. Here, Anthony, vaccines. Actually, those things, but long. There's a Joshua Julian, who's one of the names involved with predicate acts in my street with police forms and their family members, and courts and their family members, and federal agencies, and state police families interstates. And these are rules that are names with He's tied to a Mark Violet, involved with the border country like Maine, border states like Maine, and like Canada, and with people in West Hartford, uh, involved with him, like a Joseph Dennis, and people tied to a Joseph Dennis, his family members, his neighbors, also including a former Mayor Gold. These are also people increasingly involved with a former Mayor Gold, people with the name Scalora and DeMauro also involved with people with predicate acts on my street, with police forging and switching names, and with people from other countries, and were involved with differences, racketeering, worse than war crimes, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists. My name is Anthony Wall. I was in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center attack, right before it, before the court, before that was in Manhattan, New York. Before that, people from Connecticut and West Hartford and intercities of Connecticut. They had different people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed things to me that were through time connected. So the intelligence community, interbranch and intercities and intra-cities, intercampuses and intra-campuses, they a breaching method recorded them and showed them how it recorded them. Used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactical illusions wrought, pretending not to realize. Also, for example, collusion/S at, and as the value of that pretended evidence is on all sides of criminal and civil cases. The lawyers' names, conjunctions to them, their family members, their neighbors, the same thing with the courts, the same thing with the police forms, the same thing with interbranch family members and ties to them. Increasingly, people tied to a Joseph Lieberman and his family. I never met them. Involved with Central Connecticut State University, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, increasingly involved with people that went to campuses with me, that were influenced. They were a certain type of victim/hyper victim influence from off campuses and a whole bunch of different countries to put, this is each year, and names next to the campuses, put fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. These are also people involved with WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News. They attached me after the World Trade Center attack to fake conversations with them and with others about that. And with other stuff too faked. And faked and changed communications with everyone around me, including my family members. And they lied about the outcome of cases with federal criminals in those cases and their roles with this. Mark Violet also has roles with the intelligence next to WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News. And with people that also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed next to Fox 61. He and Justin Klavinsky told me they were involved with KKK and black-themed intelligence with my neighbors. And the Joshua Julian, also involved with Confederate flag theme. On the Facebook page of a principal upskirt nature, he had roles forcing and planting evidences. They also have been faking and changing evidences, including digital. There's an officer Poison involved with digital crimes and systems crimes, like where they put warrants out for people. These are people that have been attached me to fake, and also Mendez police families, people associated with them. Attached me. I never had a class with the Mendez in my life. The families that are increasingly former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members have been stacking predicate acts with facts into databases and then acting, and so others could see things, so they could have people film things where and how they have roles consciously have been used remotely, all sides of cases, in the court's names, the police forms names, overt criminal enterprise, private ones, the news at the same time, put in the same sequence shifts. The same ones that were in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center right before the attack. And the court itself, from inside the court, that was proven after they had changed the date of papers to make them appear to be late to the panel of judges next to the World Trade Center right before the attack. And now that was before. So WFSB recorded collusions with people that were involved with that, like named Scalora, which also simultaneously recorded their collusion /S with those people before the World Trade Center attack, and before and since, and long term and short term before it. The same ones who are next to the other, including WTNH. Next to them is the FBI in New Haven. They're involved to an extent of knowing it's at least plausible that they have roles with predicate acts of facts, wire crime acts and methods, mail crime acts and methods, all kinds of natures of collusions with all kinds of natures of organized crimes, including medicines crimes, with doctors forging and switching names roles, foreign and domestic military. Harvard Hospital still increasingly involved a whole bunch of people tied to the name Cololo and a Kevin Dillon and Joshua Julian, further involved with Harvard Hospital with predicate acts against me, refusing to communicate with me too, offensively by pretending to have had conversations with me, and about legal cases where the doctors and they have roles too. Like the Leahy family has a bunch of courts, personally and professionally involved with them, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw. They have more roles with sick things with the pictures of the kids and their own kid. They have the daughter, a picture of a daughter of a Leahy family involved with them further with sexual and medical offenders of kids, with judges and prosecutors in Harvard Hospital and people on up to state corrections offices and judicial branch offices and news locations at the same time. These are people involved with a summary judgment YouTube channel with Russia and Ukraine, too, with Hartford Hospital and fire departments. Involved also with Inspector Mike. A bunch of people with the name Mike involved with that, though, and forging and switching names. And like there are proofs that they took a picture of me near Mike Delaferra with a Fred Grouze, who they were involved with. Other people I don't even know their names. Fred Grouze pretended he knew me before I did, and I never saw him around the people in my area. He has roles with former police chiefs, with foreign and domestic countries, and medical, with identity theft, fraud, slanders. Increasingly, Fred Grouze and others recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also, people involved with my own family has roles with sexual and medical offenders of kids and other natures of influences over the people of modern pastry associated with reportedly the family of a police chief, Cintron, who's one of the ones involved since years before they were with Mazzucato's Bakery at the corner of Elm Street and Route 3 in Rocky Hill. They were involved intercities and intra campuses with identity theft, fraud, slanders people against me, putting fake things in databases, acting tied to it roles with retired police chiefs and names near me, involved with the police forging and switching names at the same time as collusion /S with the predicate acts of WFSB interstates and intercities and intercampuses and intra-campuses through time, increasingly. And these are also people tied to proven already first force child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart. And there were time use /S of that role, various ways recorded. And at the same time, untimely deaths and murders roles and confessions roles and ties between those people involved with that intercities is recorded and also brought up. Also, these are police that attached me to fake conversations with them at the police station. Wasn't at all. And when they're all was a kid, had a police conversation with them. And then as an adult, too. And they did that to screen their roles. Criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Whiting forensics recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have roles further with the campuses in Wethersfield with more predicate acts with kids and people with New Britain Superior Court. Record they have rape threats rolls and sequence shifts too with New Britain Superior Court, involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with those passions crimes after the World Trade Center attack in New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page as the ones involved with him, covering up what I recorded them collusions with, preventing me to get a response to requests to help by the United States military itself, one of their members, Eric Burgess. He was influenced to make confessions and demonstrations to me, requests to help. And then dishonestly, they changed it, made fake ties, fake nature lies to take ties, fake natures of ties to me, with the son of a dean judge from Central Connecticut State University. These are also people next to Trinity College, with my neighbors named Colo. A whole bunch of people tied to Ray Colo and a Joshua Stryker have been sticking predicate acts with facts in databases with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members, and the news at the same time, and overt criminal enterprises at the same time, and terrorists. And they are coaching the people that they have been lying to fake and change what people say about such serious, critical things, let alone two black pupils. You guys should fear God to hide and plot, change what people say, fake what people say. When they try to show that we have black pupils, whites of eyes, we can discern predicate acts with facts, needs, natures, and styles, using passions, emotions, or using calmness when they speak for economies. You guys left out how the breaching method for such. Better than free, we go like that. We give reliefs of all kinds of natures. We all agree. The suburbs were designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Who pretends they can't discern that will have inherent to, active to, progressive to. Their logic, their natures of logic demonstration /s of the same thing /s. Now you guys have roles with people involved with violence against me. I don't even know their names from other areas. I know one of them, Robert Rodriguez. And there are a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital. 3 times they've been planting wire crime roles, predicate acts roles with police forging and switching names, involved with child offenders, planting evidence on my house first before they were called. Then they pretend to be fake behavior there, fake communications with them there, fake yelling there. They did that also as collusion /s with people with the Wethersfield Community Center. Fear God. See, now my neighbor died. Now her husband died. You guys been strains on this location. In all instances, treatment since I was a kid. You got untimely deaths years ago, involved with the one more recent, 2 that brought up the principal child defenders campus to me. And you guys have it hid from you because they've been faking and changing digital evidences. A whole bunch of police forms at once with these Mendez police. Also, and their educators. You have whole careers that are maintained criminally forward influence, tactically delusions wrong. They want to force, check, hurt, and persuade leaders. Of course, they have to be, there's no one having spoken for the law legitimately or the sciences. There are reasons the tariff is to force a reciprocal appreciation of subjects and exceptions. But no one ever wants to believe subject treatments as at campuses A through Z. And then when we are shared, it is really sick. There are also people involved with the Clinton Corrections Facility. Increasingly, people tied to a former Clinton people and their roles with unions and various. There was a 1989 Reader's Digest article by Eugene Methvin about Local 230. And there are people associated with it, John LeConte and his daughter, increasingly involved with people and their neighbor and the neighbors of a, and as Dominic Lepriato, involved with Eric Jensen, with people increasingly with state police families interstate, along Berlin Turnpike and its conjunctions, along Route 3 and its conjunctions, and with a Mike Roberts also has people involved with Korea. He doesn't. No, he didn't tell me that. They told me that. In other words, and his educators. I never had a class with Mike Roberts. In other words, and I had a marketing class, and the girl there was someone who married a guy named Finelli. I believe they live on Valley Crest in Wethersfield. He's one of the ones involved with some criminal enterprises and private ones for his neighbors, named Demora, as ones that also said their cousins are named Scalora. These are people involved intercities through time, increasingly with identity theft, fraud, slanders. And the Scalora name was brought up by the confessions of the Robert Rodriguez, who confirmed them on Facebook before I called the school. And he brought up the name Scalora, that Wethersfield police also confessed while pretending other in their statement to me. They're faking ties, faking natures of ties to me with people named Scalora with Wethersfield police. And they've been fabricating and changing digital evidences with them, increasingly with cousins of theirs with the different last names, involved also with a Joshua Julian with a bunch of ties to the people with the bordering states of the borders, and their roles with the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the foreign and domestic governments with their roles with the country. So, Central Connecticut State University and New Britain, Connecticut has roles of people, families from Mexico, people that reportedly they said they owned a cafe. True or not, those are the ones involved with the Claudia Scalora, involved with the FBI director Robert Luskin, and Hartford courts, and New Britain's courts, family members and intimate ties before the World Trade Center, as ones that were involved at the World Trade Center, next to it, and in the court with predicate acts with facts, in sequence shifts and wrongdoing. I'm not even a lawyer. They're refusing to get on paper since I was a kid, per their rules, stacking and faking predicate acts with facts in databases, as collusion/S at all natures of crime scenes, and relative to the database identities of relativity to ourselves that we have not addressed since they came from before computers. They came from before our founders were even born. There was a criminal and is a criminal re-engineering of the republic for which we stand, and of the exceptions that its members appreciating the volume science of the human species body of individual bodies, and all group differences and generation of that science, that we are no longer afforded short words to appreciate. See, there is a reason that sickly, desperately, the leaders of political parties, not just in America, but in America, they're forcing people to say loyalty. Because you know what they do? They jump into subject treatments, incapable of defending their subject treatments and affording proper appreciation of exceptions, of exception nature, as it is actually manifest relativity/hyper relativity. Nature itself shows us we need to have not just relativity, the science of it discerned because it's here, black pupils. We need to have the science of hyper relativity to discern. It shows us that every individual knows an extent of the past that's true always. They know an extent now that is true always. And they know that the value of seasons that are not even here yet. We know they are only increasing value even if they never come again. Even if they lose. So we lose. Their ability to connect with that hyper positive which causes evolution's fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere, or it forces it from here. Force-based nature transfer is more probably and demonstrably what ancient pantheism had appreciated. The definition of Leith of Hadith as Earth's a special difference as our own, forced away from here as Leith of Hadith, with the identity of all space/existence, is already the relativity to positive and negative equally, as everybody is. We are right where it's about to be too hot or too cold. No. We have a temporary /lasting value progression system. We are still yet not afforded free speech to demonstrate. Forbid. Since pounding drugs, and people want to make free speech examples and leave out what's really recorded. Leave out really how exception nature has been appreciated. Yeah, and that's not to say appreciation is positive, always positive. Peace, we have only known criminal and insidious natures of peace in collusions with the negatives like wars, like revolutions pretended they were won. Boxing is fun, one way, many pray. Boxing, martial arts, and wrestling, they are fighting by the rules, but the rules have been abridged since ancient times. We have been systems tactiliterior. It's just a mind. So in other words, you guys also, too, the polling locations, the research locations, they are recorded how being and having been used remotely, criminally, foreign influence, tactically, delusions, raw, identity theft, fraud, slanders, are man that passed on a mass scale against ourselves, and rules with predicate acts with facts and databases, methods, /s, little magic tricks. Only I'm not a magician, and I don't need to hide their little tricks for them. In fact, it's against the law for them or anyone to hide those things. But these are the people who speak for the law. These are the names of the people of the sciences. Having been, like everyone, collusion /s at all locations /s with predicate acts with facts. That's what. And over the wrongdoing. In other words, and with tactical delusions. That's why and how black people's rights of eyes has been left out of subjects like slavery, while tactically ulterior from what our founders communicated is communicated for them. The names of the people of the sciences have been using the knowledge of good and evil to get over on us. Babayados. If we say Babayados, that's a swear. Or you could say that's Badios. I mean, if you say Badios, that's bullshit. Because we need a swear to describe this without being disgusting. This preaching method has complete control of only allowed to be heard psychopath natures of calm or aggressions with subject treatments. If you use aggressions and passions and emotions with your argument behind how we have black people's rights of eyes, and that means enough to discern that there is a breaching method, and that simultaneously is enough to discern that where and how we could discern there was a breaching method, and is a breaching method involved with American history, the telling of it properly. We could also discern how that was replaced, how truths were used and are used for lies to pretend they don't realize as roles, needs, and natures. Oh, but we're not a lawyer, and this is how we were taught. We better understand James Madison's plan. And they had to force the other founders, let alone the presidents. Founders are distinct from presidents. And we were directed to understand our founders plural as James Madison singular. And then he went and got George Washington to agree to help them and to use that plan. Also, psychiatry through our countries is involved with courts, prosecutors, their family members, with criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, rot readings of histories of the sciences, of exceptions of nature, as exception nature. So we have to have mandated law followed, and get this. Make sure has nothing to do with the schools. This Officer Poison, while you get him on paper, there's also people with the name O'Neill with West Hartford campuses and Weathersfield campuses, further involved with the Whiting forensics, with wire and digital crimes, with prosecutors and judges, and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists now, and the news too. No, and note that name O'Neill. We're gonna observe how criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, readings of religions that are at campuses, encounters to them, collusions also with people with exceptions, also involved with Dean Judd and his kids. Wayne will record, confess, demonstrate, confirm this. These are people increasingly involved with the FBI Director Robert Luskin, even if they don't know each other. And in his defendant capacities, his co-defendants and their family members have been involved with a whole bunch of different countries, including sexual differences, with sexual predators as whole groups next to the campuses, involved with the KKK, Black theme, Confederate Black theme, Latino theme, Italian theme, etc. Collusion /S. So in other words, I've been having to beg Judge Napolitano through YouTube comments and videos because of the wire and mail crime acts and methods, including the interbranch refusing to identify themselves legitimately, switching names and sequences interstates. They too long. They had to just at the same time be shown by the breaching method they could get away with hiding its uses of them by blaming each other and then doing more and more sick things to each other. They're used remotely. They can't afford to appreciate what Donald Trump said about a reciprocal. They can't. They won't. They force people on a mass scale. They pretend that economics mean what they don't, because the people, the wire, all kind of wire crime acts and methods, all kind everywhere there's a database. Then further, where there are campuses, there is a use / there are uses, plural, that are used by the singular breaching method, singular use of all locations, areas, and states, names of the people of the sciences, offensively shown. They need to force, check, hurt, and persuade, little sequence shifts, little fake motivations for why they make confessions in the form of statements and make straight up confessions and pretend not to realize things like, in other words, too, when people use words like evidence or research, the breaching method already showed them they use those words, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, rot, relative to means to appreciate this. We have to be able to appreciate exceptions, exception nature properly, but they've been planting fake exceptions, fake ties to people. So I know had a word of conversation with a Kevin Harris too. There are proofs that they took a picture of me him walking out of a door behind me at the side of Weathersfield High School, and there's someone that was walking next to me. They said about some other kid. He walked like he looked like I don't know who those people were. And a Savio Bajario. I never saw him on the inside of a school. He recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed years ago. He has roles with federal evidence his crimes on both sides of my high school with a Judge Smith and someone with the name Joe, but people next to the state capitol and at the state capitol associated with Mark Violet and his family, and Mike Violet and their mother involved with the intelligence at UConn with foreign and domestic military and their educators. I never had class with them. These are ones with my neighbors, involved with multiple police departments with them, with wire and mail crime, identity theft, fraud, slanders. Straight up. They're doing sick things at each age and nature of campus. Sickly distinctly, too. So originally still to keep out sickly non-distinctly left out. Otherwise, anyone who senses that, including as a majority of people, it adapts to that, including if it's everyone, including if it's any grouping of countries, while your locations, areas, and states are still entertained as is. And then further, at the campuses, to keep all that, you need to evaluate having been there or at locations where how it is manifest in your quality aspects. In fact, human nature as criminal and ceases nature, being and having been used remotely as your words for peace, as your words for war. We could have made hyper positives out of negatives long ago. And the reason that nature is showing us problems with borders is how and why. Cell body, cell wall. Cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall /S. And the body of life is coming through there now. Gases and their appreciation by it has that. And water and its elements coming through the cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall /S. The physical body has the body of life coming through as a quality of fusion. English was revealed to teach this as a group language in semi-ancient times, before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced from off their locations. Forced collusion /S. Not realizing too. Forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded, kept increasingly incapable of affording words to be, let alone to protract, proper by the system that is unabridged, by the one that is that it communicates with the human species body, with how there are species bodies, distinct, non-distinct, simultaneously, for that distinct identity of hypersimultaneous. We have to call it the hypersimultaneous. And when we're in the need of God variable, where it is functional, where there is a hyper invisible but still discernible. Again, those three parts of time are grouped. That identity of hyper invisible but still discernible. That is why and how the other species bodies have quality aspects, nature distinct, but also non-distinct, simultaneous /hyper simultaneous. Again, it is why we are appreciating the need for more than one word for verb. And it is why they are coupled. The present participle and the past participle, being about time /forever nature, both of them. Being about Trinity. There is another identity of hyper invisible but still discernible. But we can only discern it if we're trying to discern the volume science regarding all of the invisible but still discernible parts of speech. Because this is the reality. Even when they are not being used, we have to understand this volume science, how it is functional by the mind. Reason is led by how there is a distinct identity of hyper invisible but still discernible. A distinct identity of simultaneous nature. So I'm referring to that also as the hyper simultaneous vaccines. I teach those things, but long. In other words, you know how many people would help, like even YouTubers would help make movies like war between Canada and America and bordering countries should be making movies like this fun game that people could watch, in a movie. It's already set up. And already, you guys missed your obligations at countries A through Z to how to speak for how and why. People don't have means proper. especially at the cities, but even at the suburbs that were designed, no, before America's founders were even born. We have these things not just not clear. We have them not clear exactly the way the breaching method measured and maintains them not clear and communicated and appreciated. Tactical terror from who could afford appreciated what is already declassified about James Madison's actual communication and the founders behind him in that plan, and about George Washington's actual communication. We're not supposed to leave out his extortion. It would have brought this up. James Madison, his plan, the founders behind him, would have brought up how they had to counter extort, force the other founders, like at Wethersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. In Hartford, Connecticut, George Washington had to come and to counter extort key people to make sure we could do the first phase of that plan, which had to leave slavery entrenched northern colonies, southern colonies. No, everyone had to lie about their motivations for taking part with the revolution, otherwise to be sent through their own, individually grouped together, or even if it was everyone together, for the crazy laws that had been sustained since some ancient times. Use/S from off the location, then further hyperaditionally at the locations with databases, then further hyperaditionally at the before computers. Down, I'm talking database. This ancient republic is ancient. Black pupils. Yeah, it's time. Who disbelieves? So a Joshua Julian and a Joshua Schumack and a Joshua Stryker enter cities that have roles of Wethersfield police on and off campuses with predicate acts, also with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with other countries. I never seen Robert Luskin on a campus. I saw him in 2006 in a district court case in New Haven. And right before that, he had collusion/S with the intelligence next to Fox Connecticut News, involving all kinds of natures of organized crime. More money stolen through charging the accounts. If there are fake Social Security accounts, not to use other people's evidences, they've been forging names of doctors and faking conversations with as doctors with people of all ages and roles with it, with prosecutors and judges and their family members too, putting fake things in databases while tactically delusions raw at the same time. The psychiatry experts, A through Z. It's just concentrated data. These are also people at the corrections offices and next to it. There are proofs too, just driving by. The same thing with the judicial branch offices. These are also people that faked conversations with me about police surveillance equipment and the television. They're implying they have roles with the programs with the television where you can just, this is a face and the computer program recognizes a face and these are eyes and they can get people to look through the eyes. I don't know. That's a theory, but that's what they're implying. They also, because they do such things, because they pretend people make made conspiracy theories while they are still tactically delusions raw too. Again, black people. This is inseparable from the subjects of American history, not just the subject of slavery. And why and how a witch trials place is right next to Webb House, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum. And the nature of debate, you guys are like psychopaths with your calmness or with your aggression. You need to pretend to think things are opinions are debatable. They're not. George Washington had to come to counter extort at Webb House, now the Webb Stevens Museum. We had to leave slavery entrenched against everyone, sickly distinctly. Because that's what it is to be a part of those systems, tactile terror natures. It demonstrates. And then, other things do, other people, things, and systems do, because there are roles with it. So please, people, do what's right. We'll just pick one of them, name and sequence. Get them on paper. They won't get on paper since before the World Trade Center attack. I caught them how they covered it. It shows used remotely. We could use this to make positive value nature progressions acts in natures everywhere. You know how much money the people in psychiatry stole from the people of Canada, and Americans intelligence were the ones with psychiatry stole from Americans, especially they charge so much money. All kinds of too. The World Trade Center, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Since founding, it is recorded how all natures of investigations, investigators in their campuses were used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, collusion /S with U/S of all locations /S. Don't forget the predicate acts with facts rules, regardless of what crimes people commit, and the collusion /S with U/S of that. Psychopaths, calmness, psychopaths with aggressions be totally different. Emotions and passion. Emotions are about the hyper simultaneous. Everything at once, not the slightest thing left out or faked, or it is sensed, because nothing can mimic its volume. We didn't invent how we have two eyes, how fish have two eyes, birds. So, in other words, that which is all things anyway. Again, you may pray, vaccines. We're supposed to get free speech. The news is not supposed to keep jumping into stories. Well, that's our job, and that's what our boss told us, and then he has a badge too. Get that through even more. Get them down. Get the ones who get the courts involved too. The judges and prosecutors, their family members, get on paper. Same time, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and more people involved with weapons and poisons and bug spray. And not legitimate roles with unmarked police forms and their acting professors, their roles with acting professors in the departments of the campuses, individually grouped together, used remotely that way. Tactical terror from how nature appreciates distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, hyper simultaneously. Those differences as its own, distinctly but non-distinctly. It shows us nature. Other were our words to speak for us in here and there. Vaccines. Please, President Chief, force them to get on paper one name and sequence Wethersfield Police who disbelieves. Anyone or all of them. Get them one person, though, at least. And the courts, New Britain Superior Court and Harper Courts, associated with the FBI and the girlfriend of Eric Burgess with the Harper Courts, and an Officer Hunter too is one of the ones with Park Street, also with Daryl Sullivan and Magdalena and Hartford, Connecticut, involved with the intelligence also next to the campuses intercity and next to Central Connecticut State University with the intelligence and next to it, and the difference of that being haven't been exploited, as the ones involved with child abusers intercities and with the campuses further. They're only capable of forcing people to speak through others and hiding and not responding to when people respond to it. And like with a change of fake what's recorded over the phones too at campuses. And their motivations too, they're planting fake motivations. We're going to examine all kinds of medical corruption and medicines corruption. Same one's supposed to be countering things like drugs and alcohol. They're framing people for it. While tactically delusions raw too. We're going to examine their takes on American history. Criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Black peoples, it is time. Who disbelieves?